Warning. Pro Tri News is a podcast with different opinions, knowledge, and possibly fake news about triathlon racing. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and some stories may be dramatized for comedic effect. Enjoy.
We finally made it to Taupo, New Zealand for the 70.3 World Championship. We're super excited to bring you guys content all week long leading into the race so that you can be part of the hype. I want to give a big shout out to Bicycle for making this possible for us to be here. They're the largest marketplace for used bikes, but you can also get components, wheels, etc. all on their website. Visit bicycle.com/ProTriNews and you'll get buyer's protection as well as 30% off whenever you list a bike. So check them out. Thank you for listening and hope you enjoy. Matt Hanson, first time joining the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to be able to chat. Obviously, this season's been, I feel like a broken record. I say it's been a long season to everyone, but this year's been pretty good for you. Obviously, you won 70.3 Chattanooga. Big win at the 70.3. It's been a while since you've been on the top step there.
Yeah, I kind of overperformed expectations for a lot of people in the 70.3s and maybe underperformed in the Ironman distance, which I typically am a little better at. But yeah, we'll take the year so far.
There you go. And then after that, or was it before that was Texas?
Before that was Texas, yeah.
Texas,
Yep.
Yeah. And you were second, is that correct?
Sixth in Texas, yeah.
Sixth. After we take out the
the
other equation.
After adjusting for non-cheaters.
Yeah. So, and then your best Kona ever a couple months ago. So congratulations on that. I know that's been big aspirations from you. And then you had surgery after?
I did, yeah. I during the race at Boulder 70.3, I ruptured a cyst in my knee, and which in and of itself wouldn't have been that big of a deal. It just caused everything to swell up. But when everything swelled up, it kind of allowed space for an old meniscus injury to flap over. And so then I spent all summer running on a bucket handle meniscus tear, which meant I was running very limited and went a 3-week stretch without running at all going into Kona. Didn't know if I was going to be able to get to the start line, but was able to get somewhat pain-free leading into the race and got through the race. And 2 days later I was having surgery.
Wow, that's crazy. And so you were 10th in Kona, your best result, and kind of talk to us about the lead-in. You're obviously coached by Julie Dibbins still.
Yep.
Talk to us about your guys' kind of keys for getting you ready, even though the lead-up hasn't been great. She did, I'm sure it's similar protocol. Same thing happened to Tim O'Donnell. He didn't have the best lead-up into Kona a couple years back, and she was able to kind of piece the puzzle together. And so
definitely, and training with Tim in 2019 definitely helped keep me calm, because he was able to go and have an amazing day, and so it just helped me keep my head where I needed to and stick to the process and just go and get work done every day. And we knew the last 10K of the run was going to be pretty tough, having very limited run miles in, but I knew that if I could get there relatively pain-free, I'd be able to, I just needed to do what I could to put myself in a position to fight for it at the end. And so we spent a little bit of that extra time in the swim and the bike. And, I came out in the past, I've kind of come out in the middle to the back of the second pack of the swim. This one I was leading the second pack out, maybe second or third position in that second group. And that allowed me to get on the bike and get settled before the heavy hitters started to attack us.
Yeah. And so we're super pumped to finally announce a partnership that we've been working on for a while. Raw Nutrition is going to be our nutrition provider through the end of the year. Obviously, we've been using their products to train with for a while. They've worked with some of the best athletes in the world, from Kat Matthews, Jackie Herring, Alice Alberts, and Trevor Foley. We're stoked to be on board through the end of the year with them. You can get 15% off with code PTN. Their website is getrawnutrition.com. It's also linked in the bio for this podcast. If you're not sure what to get, look, they have a lot of different products for you. They have protein supplements, they have electrolytes, and then their fuel line gets you both to your workout and then through your workout. So check them out. They have a lot of different flavors, the orange and the lemon lime for the raw fuel. The lemon lime is my favorite. And then the Replenish, they have a watermelon mojito, which is their electrolyte formula. That's super delicious. So check them out. Give them a try. Let us know what you think. Now moving on to the race this weekend. You traveled here when?
I got here Monday.
And how have you felt, like jet lag or anything like that? It's not that bad for you.
It's not that bad. Yeah. I mean, we're 4 hours and a day, but we're really only 4 hours off. So I just go to bed at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, wake up at 5 o'clock and try to get the training done before the traffic gets too crazy here. But yeah, the jet lag hasn't been too bad. I've had a little bit more downtime than I normally do leading into a race. I'm kind of getting anxious to just get the race done now.
Yeah. What do you think of the course?
It's good. I'm happy of the changes they made. I did the full here in 2016, and it's a great course for a full, but for a world championship, they're like, if we'd have just done one loop of that course, there's not enough to challenge on the bike to break things up. And it might have been a lot like Finland where everybody just kind of stuck together. Here, I think there's enough undulations, especially early on, that it'll at least make people suffer a little bit if they all want to stay together.
And take some risks.
And take some risks, for sure.
Yeah. So the run course as well, what do you think about that? We keep going back and forth of like, is it flat? Is it not really flat? Like, it's kind of flat with a couple of climbs.
Yeah, flat with a couple of punches. If you look at it on paper, it looks really flat. But if you actually do the course, especially on the second loop, those couple of punches will make a difference. I think if people are running together, that's an opportunity to try to break things up, especially if you're a longer course guy that doesn't want to get into a sprint finish with one of the short course guys. So there's some opportunities to try to break things up a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, it's going to be a thoroughbred type run course, which I'm well happy about.
Yeah, what's your goals going into this race?
It's hard to run. Yeah, it's hard to have any overall like time-based goals here, just with the way the last 6 weeks have gone. But I came out of surgery and remarkably well. If I would have known how well it was going to go, I should have done it in June. But hindsight's always 2020. Yeah. But the Pro Series is pretty much decided for me. So I'm really just going to try to execute the best day I possibly can, and put myself in a position to fight for relevance, fight for a paycheck on the run.
Yeah. The dynamics for this race, we talked a little bit, or you talked about there being short course and long distance folks both in this race. Also the T100 people who've been racing together all season. Have you kind of like observed, and what are you thinking as far as like top 5, top 10, podium? Like what are you looking at?
For me personally?
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot about how the day shakes out. I think in my ideal position, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys that get off the front on the swim, and don't pull a lot of the other guys around. I think that works out to be a little better scenario for me. I might have an outside chance of making the back of that group in the water. That's best case for me. If that happens, then I think being up near the pointy end at the end is a real possibility. If there's a big group, kind of like Kona, of 20 guys in the front pack, and then I'm in the chase group, that probably sets up for a pretty tough day overall. There's too many good runners here, and the environmental conditions are going to be pretty benign. It'll be warm, but it's not going to be Kona warm where people are going to blow up. So it's just going to be hard to run through the field. So, the outcome is going to be determined by about 500 meters into the swim with what the possibilities are. But I mean, I've been 12th at 70.3 Worlds before. I'd love to improve on that. I've had a couple good 70.3s, probably my best one that I've had to date in Chattanooga, and followed that up with a good one in Boulder. So, I don't think a lot of people think I have a shot at the top 10, but I'm not one of them that think that.
Yeah, you've reached, looking at the results from the last few years, this year at 70.3 is probably some of the best racing you've ever done.
For sure, and it caught me a little bit by surprise as well, after a disappointing Texas for me, to go into Chattanooga and just be able to put together a really strong run there and kind of take the lead in the tail end of the race. Just kind of was a shot of confidence in the arm, and I've been spending a lot of time on the bike, especially over the summer where the run mileage was so low. So hopefully that pays off this weekend.
Yeah. Did you and Julie change anything this year that made the 70.3 racing kind of like come to an arc?
For sure. We knew that my run has always been there, and it's always been a strength, and I've been a guy that wants to be higher mileage. I think last year in 2023, I had over 20 weeks above 70 miles and a couple above 80 per week, and this year I think I only had 4. So definitely been a lot lower, and part of that was by design for the early season. The plan was for early season to really focus on swim and bike, and then work on the run leading into Kona. I never got to chance to work on the run leading into Kona because of the injury. So I stayed low mileage on the run all year. And I think that made it easier to freshen up for the 70.3s that I didn't always put, try to have as a high priority or an A priority race.
So the biggest narrative of this year has been the Pro Series. Looking at that, obviously there's races within the race. You're kind of situated in a position to where top 5 is doable.
Yeah.
It could maybe shake out a way, depending on how the race goes, that you're threatening for a podium slot. Do you have that kind of in the back of your mind while you're doing the race, or is it just strictly all business?
Yeah, I'm in a position where the only way that I can move up, or the only way that I can stay in 4th, which is where I'm at now, is for 2 other people to have a really bad day. Mm-hmm. So I can't really affect that in any way. Yeah. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to just go out and try to execute the best day possible. If Matthew, for example, he knows exactly how many seconds he has to be within the lead and who he has to beat. Like, he's got that nailed in. Like, he's got to be focusing on that. I mean, there's 200K on the line for him for that. So, I don't have to do that math. My only way that he doesn't pass me, for example, is if he has a mechanical or crashes, and I don't wish that on any competitor ever. So, you want to be able to beat the people when they're at their best. And obviously I would take the money if that something like that happened, but that's not the plan, or not what I'm counting on.
Yeah. Yesterday we had a live show and Hayden Wild joined the panel. Hayden said, I'm sure you've seen it on social media now, Hayden said that he's aiming to run a 105. Do you think that's possible on this course? Do you think that you could do something like that too? It's
a course where you can run a 105. I think for sure. Hayden's a guy that he's a short course guy, so he's got the speed, but he also is a high mileage, a guy that trains high mileage. So I definitely think that that's a possibility. I wouldn't bet against him saying that he's going to do what he says he can do. Is it in the cards for me? I've never done that before. I don't know that 6 weeks after surgery that's
recommended by your doctor.
Yeah, something that I would count on happening, but you never know what situation you're in. And I mean, the times where you're able to run the best is when you can always see the next person in front of you and just kind of chip away, and you just kind of lose yourself in what you're feeling and just try to chip away at the lead on the next person. And so if you get into that situation where you're moving through the field, it just kind of fills you with a confidence and helps you find that extra level.
Yeah. The reason why we're able to do this podcast, obviously we were introduced through Funk Fighters. Everyone that's listening to this podcast, we all know that everyone's feet stink. We all know that everyone has nasty feet, whether it's from training or training outdoors in the elements. Funk Fighters gives you the opportunity to kind of make your feet smell a little bit better with socks and shoes. So you just take a little Funk Fighters, you toss it in your shoe. They sell a 6-pack, so you buy it online, put them in your casual shoes, put them in your cycling shoes, put them in your running shoes. So go online, visit Funk Fighters, buy some stuff to make your feet not smell bad, and you'll be better off for it.
Yeah, we all know what you do in your bike shoes on the bike, so don't be the person that opens the bike bag up and stinks up the whole house after the trip home.
That's right. So,
are you headed to a race this weekend? Whether it's to watch someone or simply race yourself, Don't leave home without visiting telerx.com. TeleRx can provide so many solutions for you in the event that you get sick or injured. Currently, TeleRx has over 140 medications available in over 40 states. Use code PTN at checkout for 20% off all orders. This weekend, I'm traveling to a race and I'm bringing ondansetron, azithromycin, and high-strength ibuprofen. Good luck.
Can you kind of talk to us? This is your first time on the podcast, so I want to take every advantage as I can. Talk to us a little bit about the decision to leave your full-time job, being a professor, obviously, and then jumping into triathlon kind of full-time.
Yeah, that was obviously not an easy decision. This was way back in 2015 when I made that move, and my wife and I had talked about it a little bit, but it wasn't really a reality. And then I won Ironman Texas and the North American Champs for the first time, and essentially kind of matched my salary in a day. And but with that, I had to drive down to Texas so I could teach for as long as I could. I couldn't miss a lot of classes because we're in the middle of the semester. Yeah. And then you do the post race, bringing the final finishers at midnight, and then I was in the pool at 6 a.m. and then had to do the awards, and then the 17.5-hour drive home to go basically straight to the university, shower and change there, and then teach 8, 9, and 10 o'clock classes. And I was sitting there later in the week and had an advising session with one of my students, and I was like, yeah, we want to help you get this internship and this internship so you can chase the thing that you want most in life, not just do what you're doing. And I kind of sat back and like, okay, I love teaching, but I really love triathlon right now, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So am I chasing that with everything? And, basically the conversation with my wife was, I wanted to be able to look back when it's all said and done and know if I had what it takes to be a world champion, rather than wonder what if. Right. And so I walked away from, basically I had just finished the midpoint review of tenure and got through all that. So it was just put in another year and a half and would have been full tenure. And, it was, a tough leap, and then I proceeded to follow that up with a terrible year of racing, so caused a lot of questions whether it was the right call or not, but in the long run it all worked out. Yeah.
So what remind me what you were teaching?
I was a professor of exercise science.
Okay.
So so that kind of helped me it helped me a lot on the sponsorship front. I was like writing white papers for the nutrition companies. I was actually doing research at the university for Normatec at the time, which turned into Hyperice. So I was able to turn those into sponsorships early on in my pro career, and then obviously helped with the coaching business as well, having studied that for a number of years. And a lot of the coaches that are out there now have a lot of experience, but might not have the textbook behind that as well.
Yeah. Are you still coaching now too?
Yeah. We have a Matt Hanson Racing. We have about 8 coaches right now, and 120 athletes.
Wow.
Not all of them are coached. We have a age group, kind of social group as well. Yeah. We have a pretty good squad right there. And hopefully when the racing is in the rearview mirror, I'm coaching world champions instead.
Yeah, there you go. What kind of made you decide that you want to also do the coaching thing? Did you do that when you were a professor as well, or how long ago did that start?
I hadn't really started the coaching thing seriously as a professor, but basically it was I went full-time in the sport my second year as a pro, and I didn't have a huge sponsor profile then. And so the coaching was a way to make ends meet, and take a little bit of the stress off of racing, just to have, some continuous income coming in is what it started as. Sure. And then it evolved into, I had more athletes than I could coach reaching out to me. And so I brought in a couple other coaches that I trusted at the time. And then we've kind of added a few more coaches as we went. Yeah. And it kind of has turned into something that I'm hoping is the full-time gig when I'm not racing anymore.
Yeah. And so the coaching aspect, I think there's more and more triathletes that are doing that, professional triathletes that are kind of creating like a coaching network almost. The other coaches, on your guys' platform, they do the sport as well, or?
Yeah. So I've got a couple who are former pros.
Yeah.
I have a guy that who's earned his pro card, and now he's a professor of biomechanics, and so he's a good fit for sure. And then another one works at Training Peaks, and another's a cross country coach and a personal trainer as well as a
How'd
coach
you
for
vet
me.
those
So,
guys with you?
When I was trying to grow the program or the coaching business, I would mentor them for a year. And if it was a good fit after that year, I'd bring them on as a full coach. And if not, then great. They got a year of experience working with me, and we would just go our separate ways. And so that's how, I took a year with every one of them to make sure that it was a good fit and make sure that, I really want them to be, I don't want a systems approach, because I think every athlete is different and we need to be independent thinking about how we work with each athlete. I don't want to, have robots that are just doing things the way I do, but I want to make sure that what they're doing follows, the principles that I believe in.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about some of those principles?
Yeah, I think that you have to have a reason for what you're doing. I think that tradition is the worst way to coach. There's so many things that we thought was right in the 80s and 90s that still seem to be ringing true today, and it's almost wrong or felt as wrong if you go against it, despite the fact that research has not supported what we did in the past very well, and it supports going other methods. And I really think that in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of other coaches, more so outside of the United States, being much more scientific, and that's showing up in the results. The Americans kind of struggled for a little while because I think we were coaching more on the traditions of the past rather than trying to push things forward, and we're catching up again. But I think, we got passed by a little bit by sticking with, what has always been done in the past, and that's just not the best way to do it. And then I also, I really believe that you can't coach two athletes the same way. So if I have a couple athletes doing the same race, their build is going to look very much different, because, some are going to be more of the stock car type athletes and some are going to be more of the diesel engines. And your job as a coach is to figure out how they adapt your training, not force them to be in the box that you want to work out of.
Yeah. Looking towards the future, what's kind of your goals and aspirations? Like, what are you looking forward to in 2025 from both a racing standpoint, a personal standpoint, business standpoint?
Yeah. Racing standpoint, the Pro Series is probably going to be my focus again next year. I set out the goal is the day that I kind of looked through the Pro Series this year. I said it's going to take 20,000 points to win. That's the goal for the year. Obviously fell a little bit short of that, but yeah, close. On both sides, it's pretty. The people that are going to be on the podium are going to be very consistent, but you had to be, or the top 3 or 4 are going to be really consistent throughout the year, but you had to have some really good races in order to be at the top. So, I thought 20,000 was what it's going to take, and that will be the target for next year. And you just go and find the races that are going to fit into your schedule and hopefully execute a little better than I did this year.
Would you consider yourself a creature of habit? Are you going to look into the exact same races that you did this year, next year?
I'll probably change it up a little bit. Most likely I'll start in South Africa. Definitely keep Ironman Texas on the list. Yeah. St. George is going to have their last race of at least for now. So I'll probably go and do that. And then it makes sense to do Eagleman. And then we'll see for the last full, whether I do Cairns or Lake Placid, or just go all in and hope that Nice goes well.
Yeah. What's been your favorite race that you've done? You've raced for a long time. What's your all-time favorite race you've done, either half or full or both?
From a environmental standpoint, I've really enjoyed every time I've gone to Coeur d'Alene. It's where my first real triathlon was when I was an age grouper back in 2011. I kind of figured out what triathlon was there. And so, it's got a special place for that. But, I was able to win the 70.3 there a couple times, and race the full there a number of times as well. And it's just a great course, and the locals in town really seemed to embrace the sport, and always supported the event. And it was just always a fun, even though it's tough to get to, it was a fun place to be.
Yeah. It's not that far from Spokane though, right?
No, you fly into Spokane and just drive over. Yeah. Yeah.
Flying to Spokane and it's a 30-minute drive, right?
Yeah, I drove there from Iowa, which I wouldn't do again,
long.
but that was a long drive.
Whoa.
Yeah. The way there is fine. Just driving home after you're tired, sore, and cranky, that's not so fun.
Yeah. You were one of the early adopters, I would say, probably one of the longest running athletes that was sponsored by On.
Yeah.
Now they've sponsored a lot of athletes. You've been sponsored by them since well before they came out with the carbon shoe. And when they came out their first carbon shoe, and I remember you racing in it. Can you talk to us about the evolution of kind of what On has done and brought to triathlon from whenever you started with them back in
2014? I met Lottie at Kona in 2014, and I was introduced to him, and then went and met the founders at Kona there, and I really appreciated their vision. So we connected at the beginning of 2015 as the first sponsorship, and how quickly they've developed to be a major player, not just in triathlon. I mean, now triathlon's almost a secondary market for them. They're just becoming a global brand, and they've done that, I think, the right way. They've tried to be on the forefront of technology. You've seen the recent spray-on shoes, and they're just constantly trying to innovate and push the boundaries. And I've always trusted that anything that they're sending me is going to be good. I got the prototype carbon shoes for the first time 2 days before Daytona in 2020, and ran the race and had the fastest run by quite a bit, and was able to run up onto the podium there. And so and then I got a call from Olivier, one of the founders, the next day, and just to say how happy they were that I tried the shoes out and trusted them, and just that call meant a lot to me. And so it's been a great partnership to grow along with them, and just to see how far they've come in such a relatively short amount of time, and kind of put it to some of the bigger players in the sport.
They've almost been the only player in triathlon, and evolving kind of as it goes. I was having a conversation with someone about a certain brand that almost pioneered the carbon shoes, and then now they're just change the colorway and move on.
Yeah.
On continues to develop and make the shoes better and better each and every year. Which ones are you going to be running this weekend?
I'll be in the Cloud Booms, the 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
You like those the best?
That's the newest version. We've been well happy with all of them. I actually like the Cloud Boom Echo 1 better than the 2, and then the 3 was better than all of them, and then the 4 has been pretty awesome.
Nice. Well, what do you think is going to happen in the race this weekend? You want to give some predictions for the men's and women's race?
The women's race, I think most people will probably say it's Taylor's the favorite.
Yeah.
Kat has a lot to race for, obviously, with the Pro Series on the line.
Yep.
Ash is always going to be a contender. It's a pretty deep field, so definitely Taylor is strong, but she's not infallible. So I think that while I consider her the favorite, I train with her a bit, so I hope she has an amazing day. But I could see somebody else pulling off a victory there. On the men's side, it's a little bit more unknown. There's a lot of short course guys that don't have a ton of 70.3s, and usually, at World Championships, experience plays a big part of that. But last year, that kind of showed us that you don't need a ton of experience. I don't think a lot of people knew who Rico was ahead of the race, and it's hard not to pick a couple of the locals here to be on the top.
Have some extra energy this
and I mean, like we've talked about Hayden already. I think he's a guy that's going to come in with a lot of confidence, and on the home course, Kyle as well. It'll be a lot of fun to see how it all shakes out. One thing's for sure, though, it's going to be full gas from the get-go.
Yeah.
So
swim, bike, and run is just going to be full power.
Yeah, I mean, you see that every 4 years when a lot goes on the Olympic cycles. Then at the end of the Olympic year, the 70.3s get really fast again, and then we all kind of have to adapt to that. It just changes the way that the race shakes out. The more the short course guys, like the faster the swim gets, and that makes it puts a little bit more pressure on guys like myself who are second pack swimmers. But yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Nice. Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate you making the time and being able to do this. I know it's kind of a lonely trip without the family, but
yeah, a little bit.
We're good to see a familiar face.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
Thanks for making the time, and we're all rooting for you this weekend.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.